think about it from the user's perspective, content that is generated by somebody with experience knows how to humanize the content that they've used. If they've used the assistance of AI, they know how to humanize the content, and they also know how to add context with their own experience, which means it's such a valuable piece of content. Because if I think about it the way, if I was to generate content, I wouldn't want to have to sit down and rack my brain and have writer's block, and I wouldn't utilize my energy towards just trying to think of ideologies and things to bring up in a piece of content for a specific keyword. I could then give that to a tool, and then I could use my valuable resources and my decisions on adding context to valuable points that have already been spat out. And I could make those points that much better and make the content that much more valuable than me just starting and writing it from scratch. But Google's going to want to ensure that that person who has the experience is the one that's supervising or editing, proofreading the content, at least before it goes out and goes live. So then that still changes the game on how content's created, because it's a combination of written, assisted by AI, rewritten by a content writer, and or the person with the experience, and or have that supervised by somebody with the experience if the person doesn't actually write it. As a community of content site owners have this thing where we want to have a shortcut, and we want to just get as much content out there as quickly as possible, because that's what we've been taught from Google 10 years ago. The more content we put out, the more you're going to get ranked and the more traffic you're going to get. Whereas like I see so many sites, and I'm loving the sites that have 100 to 200 articles with a DR50, but a lot more traffic and less content to maintain than something with 700 to 800 articles with a DR9. Right, or authority score of 9, because the content's thin and crap, because they've just played a game of like, just put as much content out there as quickly as possible. But those ones with the experienced people reviewing that content and putting it out there are the ones that are winning. And that makes that coupled with this AI tool, for me, makes it an exciting game if it's done right. So I wanted to ask you, how would you foresee a blog owner breaking down that process and hiring people or creating an SOP to get a piece of content generated that's very valuable coming from somebody that's got experience without having to do absolutely everything in the process of the system to create that piece of content?
Yeah, sure. Before I answer this question, I just wanted to mention that what you are saying, like, I'm loving this. I absolutely agree with that. And just to add on top of that, at the moment, we are in the times when you have virtually unlimited content. Okay. You can generate unlimited content pretty much, because it costs pennies to generate content. Okay. And when there's so much abundance, what becomes really important within that is the uniqueness. Okay.
Yes.
And this is where all of this stuff that we already mentioned is actually tying in and comes into play, right? To make all of this better, to think about that. And just one last thing before I answer your question, because you were also saying about writer's block and creating, focusing on adding value to the content that is, let's say, pre-written. Okay, and I totally agree with that. And by the way, in all of that, this already sounded sort of like a process of the like step-by-step process of what you mentioned.
Well, there's something I outlined. I basically hashed out a little bit the other day with a client, just built a bit of a process for him. But I'm just curious.
It shows.
Reinforce it in different ways or poke holes at it.
But so with that, I like to use a simple exercise, and if you take the same outline for the content piece for one article and give it to 2 or 3 different writers, you'll get different results, right? And you will see which writer has written for that niche. You'll see which writer is a novice writer. You'll just see that, okay? And so this is basically it, right? When you have a basic outline, GPT can throw in its own stuff like the basics, and then you just build on top of that and build on top of that, and that's great. So when it comes to the process, I would use basically what you've said and build on the foundation that GPT gives me. It's great for ideation content. It's pretty creative. Actually, I find it pretty creative. Actually, it's helped me discover a lot of keyword ideas, for example. But going back to what you wanted me to talk about, which is hiring and processing. So, and I think this is going to sound a bit weird, but because I've heard people really worried and avoiding content writers who straight up say that they are, let's say, fluent or they use AI content generators. Okay. And I'm saying, why? If they embrace the tool, that's good. Obviously, if they only generate content and they try to sell you that generated content for, I don't know, even $20 for 1,000 words, and this is obviously too much, right? But if they embrace the tool and they're still really good writers, then why not, right? It just shows that they keep up to date with stuff that's happening in their own niche, in their own industry, in their own specialization. Okay, but having said that, I would be really careful with choosing the content writers at the moment. Okay, and I would probably want to have a better screening process because you don't want someone who gives you content that comes straight out from GPT. Okay, because this is going to be the shortcut that we were talking about earlier. Okay, so with every content writer that we will be trying or hiring now, we will actually be testing their assignments, their test assignments through the AI generator, not AI generator, the AI detectors. Like I said, we can maybe leave a couple of links to the tools that we use. Like I said, It's like 3 or 4 tools. So that's my step number 1. But on top of that, I would probably try to get them to write something that OpenAI's tools and other AI generators struggle with. And this content struggle. These tools struggle with content based on experience, opinions. For example, just to name a couple. Okay.
And emotions, and there's so many. Yeah.
Yeah, but I encourage and actually challenge the listeners to go onto ChatGPT and test it for themselves if they haven't yet.